Hello everyone and welcome back to Wild
Oh,
Endeavour.
okay.
We don't know how
I
long
was
it's been, but
It's been 93 days. What? The most
yeah.
consistent podcast, Doctor Who podcast ever made.
I mean,
Yeah.
we've...
Wait, 93 days. Is that technically 3 months?
I guess? I mean, does it not say that on YouTube? I thought YouTube did
Well, it
it
says
in months.
93 days and 50 minutes is what it says.
Really? I thought YouTube usually does it in like months for me, like months, weeks, whatever.
No, it's because I'm on YouTube Studio, so yeah,
Oh.
probably about 3 months.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, it's been a while.
It has been,
I'm just gonna say now, it's all John's fault. No, I'm joking. It's my
I
fault.
mean, it is partly my
it's-
fault.
I think it's mostly my fault, to be fair. I've had a bit of like a motivational rut with content in general. I think it's just, to be honest, as most people know, obviously we have news now, which I have no doubt we'll talk about. But for the last few months, like, there's been virtually nothing going on. The fandom's been largely insufferable. I mean, at least on Twitter, you know, some people still doing some great stuff, but like, I'm finding it's just always the same few conversations, and I've not been really motivated to really talk about it, you know?
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know, I found this year to be a pretty, obviously, you know, big news aside, in terms of the actual content we've been getting, to be quite a lackluster year, just to be a Doctor Who fan. I know obviously we've got a lot of exciting stuff coming. I think it's just been the in-between times have been pretty bare, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I get that. I mean, obviously, there's some stuff that we know, but we can't talk about it for our reasons, but...
Oh,
you
wait.
know.
You know about... Anyway, I don't
Obviously,
know even know what that's a reference to.
you know, bestie, with my, like, working and stuff like that.
Yeah, sure. So anyway, so yeah, just to give you all a bit of an update, we're doing alright though. We just not really been, like, I've been less motivated. Like, Sean, to be fair to him, has been saying, oh, let's do the podcast, and I've been struggling with the main channel as well. It's not even just the podcast.
That's only been the last couple of weeks, though. I think with this one, we wanted to do a more general one anyway, just kind of... We'll obviously talk a little bit more about the centenary, but, like, more just, like,
I've kind of...
how we've been, what we've been up to in this time.
I think it's also just, I don't want the podcast to just be, hey, look, here's the latest news thing.
Yeah.
Let's just do a thing on that.
Because it was kind of just becoming Tardis too, and the problem with the podcast is that it would tend to come out a couple of days after, like, everyone had already put out their videos on the news, so it would just kind of be us regurgitating things we had already spoke about elsewhere.
For me, it was literally just, because I was filming them so close together as well, it's almost like I would stop recording a Tardis video, start recording Wild Endeavour, and it was literally just me repeating myself again for, like, in a different format, essentially. And I think that's something that we want to do less of. Not that we won't cover the news, but I think obviously we will if anything big happens, obviously. But, like, I think I want to do more themed episodes.
Yeah, we spoke about that. Yeah, definitely.
We've spoken about it at length, and we're going to talk about a couple of things, you know, that aren't news related, such as we both went to the BFI.
We did do that, yeah.
We'll probably discuss that a bit, and things like that. And I'm heading towards London next week.
Yeah.
So as we're recording this anyway, so we'll probably do maybe an episode on that. You know, and just, I think I do want to get back into it. It's just been a case of, like, you know, I want to make sure that, you know, I don't want it to be just us, you know, churning out content for the sake of it, and I don't want you guys to just be getting stuff that you could get anywhere else.
Yeah.
You know, I want it to be something that we're both passionate about, I think, as well. And it's not just, hey guys, look, news, you know. So yeah, in the spirit of that though, let's talk about some of the news, I guess, because why not? Because there's actually some things I haven't really spoken about at length with regards to the centenary. Obviously, for those of you unaware, last couple of days ago we had was it a couple of days ago, was it last week? I've lost complete
I'm not sure
semblance of time, frankly. But yeah, like, sort of a few days ago, we got the Doctor Who magazine drop, and within it, we learned several new interesting details about the centenary. Probably the most notable one being in the name of the episode itself, being Power of the Doctor. Jean, what are your thoughts on the title? Because I don't think you've said it in a video before.
No.
I have briefly, but I kind of want to go into it because there's some things in that article that I heard about afterwards that I didn't mention in the video, because at the time I made my centenary news video, the little one, I had no internet, so I was just kind of going off of what I could like see.
I'll be honest, I didn't watch the video.
Here's the thing.
I don't know what you said.
That's fine. It's just basically just talk about the title and a couple other little details but like there's been stuff since that I think is really interesting. But yeah, the title anyway. What are your thoughts on it?
It's not great. In fact, I would say that it's quite bad, and I really do not understand why they held off on releasing this information, because
this is the thing,
it's changed nothing. In fact, I think it's actually retrospectively made people more disappointed with finding out now, because you could have just included that at the end of the trailer instead of that Legends of Sea Devils like end slate. You could have just put like the Power of the Doctor. People would have been like, oh, that's an intriguing title, and you know, we would have.
No one would have batted an eye, I don't think.
It's the fact they've held off for so long. They've dropped this. It's such a vague title. It's such a generic, like, kind of, oh, the Power of the Doctor. That tells us nothing.
I think it's also the fact as well that it's just like, because the thing is, I know a lot of people are comparing it to, well, you know, Time of the Doctor, Day of the Doctor, Night of the Doctor. Difference there was, it was part of, like, a series of episodes, so that's somewhat more justifiable. Also, beyond that, I just think, like, Day, Time, Night...
Yeah, the Time of the Doctor's also a good title. Yeah.
Yeah, that like they're much more natural words to put with it than Power of the Doctor.
But
Power
look,
of the Doctor,
it's like
don't know
the
what
Power
it is.
of the Daleks, bestie.
It sounds clunky, yeah, but it's also the fact it's another example of the title in the Chibnall era, because someone pointed out on Twitter, I believe 10 of the 31 Chibnall episodes have of the title, so like War of the Sontarans, Village of the Angels, The Battle of Ranskor Kolos.
Yeah, and I don't mind I don't mind a good like of the title. It's just the fact of how many we've had like in such close.
It's just extremely generic. It's just it's very like, oh, cool. And I think it's, as you said, because we were waiting so long on it. And can I say as well, obviously we're going to get into I think why this has happened. The fact that it was just sort of shadow dropped in the magazine as well is like, okay, you know. And I think we know why that was. You know, to do with the passing of the beloved Queen Elizabeth II.
Oh, yeah,
by the way,
yeah, we need our Queen segment. We need to have our little monarchy rant.
I don't know whether I want to fully go into it, because I feel like people are going to be like, how dare you bloody insult the Queen?
I don't care.
How dare you?
I don't care. I don't want those people watching the podcast. That's right.
Well,
if you like the monarchy, fuck you, nah.
No, let's not lose, you know, the audience. But what I would say is, I find the whole thing a bit like just ridiculously overblown, even if you like the monarchy. This whole like weeks of like nothing else being on the TV, everything's being cancelled. Just it's on every electronic billboard wherever you go constantly.
We have to put the country the entire country has to essentially go like into standstill for
this is what gets to me, right? Like, there are people treating this more seriously than the actual bloody lockdowns that happened. And it's like, one of these was for a life-threatening disease, the other one's for a woman who, okay, you might like, whatever, but you never met her. And she was also 96. Like, it's gonna happen
people are meeting her now, you know, they're queuing up for hours on end to look at
to see a box.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
It makes no sense.
It's mental. Like, you know, if you like the royal family, fine, whatever. But, like, I just don't get the length some people are going. But beyond that, because it has actually affected Doctor Who. I think this is basically all. It's not official, but it's basically confirmed that you know, obviously every couple of days, for those of you who don't know, they were doing like little countdown with each Chibnall era episode being posted, with the ongoing theory being that they were gonna keep posting them until eventually we got the, you know, the centenary post, if you like.
Yeah.
And that's basically not happened since, because it was sometimes 3 days apart, sometimes 2 days apart, sometimes the following day. The farthest away I got 3 days. As time of recording this, they haven't, on the 18th of September, they haven't posted since the 8th, with a Kablam post. And obviously they probably won't now until after the 19th, which, for those of you who don't know, is the day of the funeral. So that's kind of scarpered their plans, because what I would have imagined happened is, I think this is just purely my like speculation now. I'd imagine that if the passing had not occurred, I think they'd have I think they'd have sped up the posts to maybe be daily to coincide with Doctor Who magazine.
Possibly, because I did see that they were like, it was like every couple of days, and then I noticed like the last few were kind of like back to back.
So my sort of theory was, okay, maybe they would have sped it up a bit to tie in with Doctor Who magazine, or they'd have released more stuff a couple of like weeks after.
Yeah, I definitely see us getting, like, we probably would have gotten some stuff alongside.
Like, I'm imagining in my head,
like some pictures like tweeted out alongside the release of Doctor Who magazine.
Like, I'm imagining in my head, there's almost certainly like draft tweets for like Paradoctor, and like some of the art that we've been seeing that just don't exist because they can't. Because all BBC shows, as far as I'm aware, are doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Again, I don't really see Doctor Who's relevance to it. Like, I don't get it, but you know what? Fair enough. But obviously, it's not something that can be helped. I don't blame the marketing team for that. You can't really blame them for, like, the Queen dying. With that having been said, I do think some of the marketing stuff should have happened earlier than it has. I think, to me personally, I mean, the fact that we still don't have a date.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Yeah, we're about.
We could be a month or less.
Yeah.
You know, we could be less than a month from broadcast now, you know, because it's either going to be like, let's be honest, it's either going to be the 16th or 23rd. It's going to be one of those two dates.
If you want people to watch your show, people need to know when it's on. You can't
like
just
the idea that we don't know,
minute.
Like a month out is kind of ridiculous. I get not having a trailer. I'm still not really bothered about that. They can show another one. But I'm kind of like, you know what, we've seen plenty from the centenary, like, in terms of the teaser.
I heard, though, that it's linked to the whole BBC's new thing of, like, they can't promote certain shows over others.
Yeah.
Like, they all need the same level of marketing, so, like, say, this would get the same amount of marketing.
But that's a silly rule, in my opinion, though.
Country File should be getting the same amount of promotion as, like, Doctor Who.
They're not... Because the thing is, as well, like, to do that is to negate the differences between the shows, as well, I think. Because Doctor Who, you know, what other BBC show has, like, a Comic-Con presence, or merchandise lines, or audios,
Doctor Who hasn't had a Comic-Con presence. Like, the last
No, I know, but what
years.
I'm saying is, no other BBC show can really do that.
No.
Like, is what I'm getting at. Like, it doesn't have the wide-reaching, not that it's not necessarily wide-reaching, it's more the
demographics, because it's like a lot of their like big performing dramas, like I can't remember, like other
Line of Duty,
yeah,
like,
exactly,
yeah, like no one's gonna like,
no one's going like
go to a con to like see the new Line of Duty trailer. It doesn't happen. Like, what I'm saying is, with how much money the Doctor Who generates, and it being arguably one of their oldest and most prestigious brands, you know, probably up there with like the likes of Top Gear a couple of years ago, because, you know, that was everywhere for a time.
Do you think that with this little thing they have with Bad Wolf currently, that does mean we will get more promotion for
I think so.
Because they've split it.
I don't see the way the current era is being marketed carrying over to the Russell era. I just don't see it. But, I don't think
I don't see that anyway. But I've heard a lot of that is just on Chris Chibnall himself being.
Yeah, no.
foolish.
From what I've heard, it's a lot. It's like it's kind of. Well, it's not even foolish. It's just he loves secrecy and he doesn't want to be in the public eye.
I guess, but when it's like holding back images from like retailers to like produce merchandise, that's like
I completely agree.
They're not going to leak. Ridiculous. They're not going to leak images. They're like professional businesses.
It's the sort of thing where it's like, I think Mr. Tardis put it well. It's like, you know, I get it. Not everyone likes to be, you know, a big face of a show or anything.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, you have to kind of accept you are the showrunner of Doctor Who. Like, you know, people do expect you to, you know, at least allow these things to be put out, even if you're not, you know, there yourself. They, you know, because ultimately, I do think the fandom puts too much pressure on showrunners. I'm not going to deny that, but ultimately, I fail to see a scenario in which Chibnall doesn't at least have some say in what goes out and what doesn't. And I think you can just tell in the difference of approaches with like Stephen Moffat and Chris Chibnall. It's like they're like two completely different shows in the way that they're marketed. Obviously, you know, some people prefer the way Chibnall does it, and I'm not, you know, going to negate that. But I think, you know,
there's secrecy, and then there's like Because I think you can have secrecy, but it's more the just holding off for as long, because you're still releasing the same information at the end of the day.
And I think it's
the way
also
they've
just the
spaced
fact
it out.
that like these like months of nothing, they aren't.
It's shown that it's not
like,
worked. Like Russell T Davies has said, like the worst thing that can happen to Doctor Who is when the show's not on, when it's not out.
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. And I'm finding it like, at the end of the day, the last episode is coming out now, so I'm kind of just like, whatever. But I am just sort of like, because at least to say what you will about like Stephen Moffat and stuff, there's plenty of criticisms that I myself have had of the man, and his era. But I've always sort of had the impression, generally, that he tried to learn from what was perceived as his mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Like with Chibnall, it almost feels like there is none of that. It is just, this is the way I do it, and that's it. And you know what? Part of me respects that, but then part of me is also like, I feel like there are a couple of points, like with marketing, where it's like, I think you could take a couple bits on board here. Like, it's Doctor Who isn't like Broadchurch. It isn't this like high concept mystery drama that like everything's a massive reveal. It's just, it's also a family show, and I think treating it with this hyper level of like, no, they can't know anything until a month before, it kind of makes it look like it's taking itself too seriously as well, I think. Obviously, you can take the show seriously, but I think it's a weird juxtaposition where I think this era likes to be light and jovial a lot of the time, and then the marketing approach, they'll get mad at John Bishop for saying he's from Liverpool. Like, do you know what I mean? It's almost like those two vibes don't connect.
Yeah.
It's like the show they're making and the show they're marketing almost feel like two completely different shows sometimes. But yeah, that's that tangent aside, because I want to actually talk about what we have got, because obviously Power of the Doctor, we've spoken about the title, but there's more stuff that's been revealed in that. Most notably, we've had numerous images of, the Master, and other characters. I think the most notable things are obviously the Master. They mentioned that he's going to wear multiple disguises in the episode. Mm-hmm. That's one of the main things that they dropped. There's also going to be, according to the magazine, which I think was reiterated in the Radio Times, like a Sherlock-style twist at the end, which
every theory I've seen surrounding that
is slightly terrifying me. It's slightly terrifying me, because obviously, knowing Chris Chibnall and knowing how much of a supporter he is of like the old law, I am just really worried that they aren't going to pull like what some people were joking about on Twitter of like they're actually, siblings now, or like
they're the same person.
Some other weird twist with the Master where it's like actually he was the timeless child. Yeah. It's like, like the thing is, I was kind of at a point with the centenary where I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna let it happen. We'll see how we go. And it's like, because I'm kind of at a point where I don't expect anything from this era anymore. Like I don't go into it being like, oh, this is gonna be class, this is gonna be great. I go into it going, we'll see what it's like. And if I end up enjoying it, then anything's a plus. But like, that was my attitude going into it, like, oh, it looks maybe fun, and then, like, I saw that, and I was like, oh, God. No.
I've been dreading it since the beginning. Ever since I watched that trailer, I've been like, this is going to be dreadful.
I think for me, I'm not just... heard
about it,
I want to be hyped with everyone, you know what I mean? It's that annoying thing of, like, I want to be excited, and I think I've kind of been willing it.
Well, even like, just talking about it, I feel nothing. I'm just like, oh, I'm so tired.
Yeah, no, to be fair, I haven't even done, like, a big centenary breakdown news. I did, like, a little quick one, but, like, there's some things we're going to talk about, which I haven't talked about on the main channel yet.
That's the thing. When you mentioned at the beginning of this podcast that we have more to talk about, I was like, oh, no, yeah, we do, don't we? I don't want to talk about the centenary. The only thing that, like, somewhat interested me was that, like, we see that in one of the promo shots, the Master, he's holding like a small figure, and people are like assuming that it could be Yaz.
I think.
Yeah.
But then
and like the tissue compression eliminator, kills people, But at the same time, I'm like,
then,
will Chibnall do that? Like, I know
I
he's
don't
written
think
Exit
he'll kill
Wounds where he killed, like, you know, 2 of the main characters from Torchwood.
but then you've also got to think, in his era, like, I think someone pointed this out, the only person to die of note since Grace has been, like, Jericho. And that's been, like, it, in terms of, like, the meaningful character main deaths. And that's not even, like, a main companion, so...
That's the thing.
I can't see him.
Even if it is Yaz, and it's like, the compression... tissue... Oh, I forgot what it's called. The shrinky mabob device thing.
The tissue compression eliminator, the shrinky mabob.
Yeah, he's definitely... Even if it is Yaz, somehow the Doctor's going to find a way to reverse it.
Oh, it's going to be reversed. I mean, Ash had... He was miniaturized,
that's true.
And he's back, so...
Yeah.
Maybe they'll use the same trick. I don't know. I think there's a couple of things that have, like... These are, like, my major concerns. Obviously, you know, what we mentioned before with the whole, what were we talking about before? Before the miniaturized picture? Talking about, like, the Sherlock twist.
Oh, yeah, the twist.
I'm worried about that because I'm like, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? You know, are they going to make it all that it was all like... The thing is, right, I think I've spoken to you about this before. There is no way they can make The Timeless Child end well.
Yeah,
and
no,
what I mean by that
they don't have like room to like give it a satisfying payoff.
If they do it so that it's like my past doesn't define me.
Yeah, they've done that.
They're just literally just doing the same thing that they've done for both Revolution of the Daleks and Flux. It's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
If they do it so that we actually explore it, then you run yourself even more risk of, like, you know, messing around with the continuity and making people dislike it even more.
Yeah. Also, you're sacrificing, like, you also don't have time to do that anyway, because, like, you're bunging off everything else in the episode.
If you do a big twist where it's like, oh, it was all a lie, people
then none of it
why
mattered.
are we following it then? And, like, the fans of this era are going to be sat there going, well, we got invested in this, you know, hoping it was going to go somewhere, and then you just pull a 180? Like, what the hell? Like, basically what I'm saying is there's no way he can wrap it up that's, like, going to satisfy the majority of people. You know, it's not like, say for example, you know how people got annoyed at, like, the hybrid and stuff, right? Because it was like, the hybrid answer was kind of just, like, there were ways you could wrap up the hybrid that people would have been happy with, right? Like, there are cool ideas you could have done with that. With The Timeless Child, it's kind of written itself into, like, a weird corner, whereas, like, where I feel like, however you resolve it, people are going to be like, well, what was that? But the other thing that concerns me beyond the twist thing is I was reading in Doctor Who magazine, Sophie Aldred was literally saying that she was only meant to be a cameo until, like, August, and I'm pretty sure that's when they started filming with her, or were wrapping up filming with her. So I'm really worried about the inclusion of these guys now being glorified cameos.
I sort of always saw them being cameos, because I'm like, well, there isn't enough space to tell a story with Cybermasters and Daleks and the Master and various costumes and all the Doctors and Regeneration Store.
Yeah, no. But cameos are one thing, right? But it's the sort of cameos where they don't actually, like, contribute anything, and they're just sort of, like,
no, the episodes are just going to be, hey, remember this thing?
Yeah, and I'm like, but, like, there's so many cool things you could do with Ace and Tegan. I'm just worried they're going to be treated exactly like Kate and Jack were in Flux in Series 12. Where it's like, they're just here, you learn nothing about them, they're just here as window dressing, and I'm really worried that that's going to be what they do with them now. And I think the fact that they've been added in so late into the game, that's worrying in itself, because, like, how much time has he actually had to write them in? Is it going to feel really forced? And, like, I saw in the magazine as well, they were like, oh, you know, like, the director, I think, J. Magnus Stone, was like, oh, we'll fix that in post. It's like, oh, no. They're admitting that they're admitting to that in the magazine, like... And obviously, you know, some things do have to get fixed in post, right? But kind of fixing it in post kind of has some negative connotations in the industry of just, like, you know, having to fill in large chunks of your TV show with, like, you know, editors struggling to, like, piece it together, and I'm really worried that that's what it's going to be. Especially, what doesn't help this, right, is that the last episode we had was bloody Legend of the Sea Devils, and Legend of the Sea Devils was probably one of the worst edited episodes of Doctor Who.
Like, slapstick, just, like, thrown together
it's like
episode I've
slapdash,
seen.
Like, episode we've seen in recent memory. So coming off the back of that, my expectations really aren't high for... And I think just having the director outright say, like, in the magazine, "I will fix it in post," that raised some red flags for me. I want to be excited for this special. I really do. Like I've said, like, I want to have fun with it. I want to enjoy it. It's the last one. The year is going to be over. We're going to have a new thing, and, great. But, like... as much as it's almost like Doctor Who itself, and like everything we learn about the centenary is trying to like deliberately trying its hardest to make me like less excited or less, likely to be excited. Like it's saying all the wrong things for me, right? It's pushing all the wrong buttons. Oh, we'll fix it in post. Oh, I was added in last minute. Oh, there's a big Sherlock style twist with the characters. Like, oh no.
Yeah. The more I hear about it, the more I'm just dreading it.
Because I was always of the mindset of like, oh, it's just one episode left, it's the end of an era, like it can't be that bad. And then some people like, yeah, but like, what damage could be done in that 90 minutes though? Could he mess up Ace? Like, I do think there's a lot riding on it, like, because as well, it's like, because it is such a big episode. It's like it's not even just a normal special. It's like celebrating 100 years of the BBC. It's like the last episode for Jodie Whittaker as a whole. And above anything else, I think she deserves a decent fucking episode to end on. Because, like, I do think that as much as, like, her Doctor hasn't been for me, I think she, has had a lot of unwarranted just shit for no reason.
I think it'll definitely be one of these ones that's remembered. And I think it'll probably, like... I think even if I think it's dreadful, right? I think it'll be like have a similar thing.
I think it's gonna be entertainingly bad. At least it's gonna be like at the very least, if it is bad, it'll be like it's not gonna be boring. I don't think. I don't see it being boring. It
may be one of those episodes that's enjoyable in the kind of turn your brain off for like 90 minutes. And then...
I feel like that's what a lot of people say about just the Chibnall era as a whole, right? Like, if you don't think about it, you can
which,
it's
fine. Not... Yeah.
Which isn't exactly high praise.
Which is not how I like consuming media.
No. But, like, I want to be hyped for the centenary, but there's always just these little niggling things where I'm like, oh, no. You really couldn't have said anything worse for my, like, excitement. I want it to be good.
Oh yeah. I'm not one of these people that like wants to go in and it just be a disaster.
Like, I think some people think I go into Doctor Who being like, oh, I think it's gonna be shit. I think it's gonna be terrible.
No, I went into Legends of Cedar was wanting it to be. I was so hyped for that. The concept was really good.
Like, even in an era that I'm not really a big fan of, I want it to be good. But it's like with a lot of other episodes of this era, like everything I am hearing about it is just making me less and less enthused. It's also just the fact that it's, again, as we sort of stated, it's taken us so long to hear anything about it that it's like all these sort of issues, although they might not seem connected at first, they kind of compound on top of each other and create this thing where it's like, not only are we barely hearing about it, but also when we do hear about it, it brings up more concerns than it does excitement. You know what I mean? It's like and it just becomes tiring, because I've tried so hard. Like, people will remember, during Flux, I was trying to enjoy it, first couple episodes. Even you, with Halloween Apocalypse, you were like, oh, I didn't like it. I was like, oh, give it a chance, it's only episode 1 and stuff.
Well, that's my problem. I think the Centenary is going to be, like, I'm going to dislike it for the same reasons that I dislike the Halloween Apocalypse, where it's like, it's setting up way too much stuff, whilst also trying to, like, tell its own story. You're like,
but I guess what I'm saying is I've tried to give this era the benefit of the doubt more than I think a lot of people think that I do.
Yeah. It's because you're evil theories, man.
Yeah. But even though I'm not one of these people who, say like who'll just decide that they're not going to enjoy something or won't give stuff a chance. No, even if it's like something that like if it's a team that I'm not really like vibing with, like a Rising Star, I still want to like it. For example, right? Rick and Morty is a great example. Recent Rick and Morty, it's been coming out last couple of weeks. I think it's pretty mid to bad. But I've kind of gotten to the point of being like engaged with the characters now, and I still want it to be good. Mm-hmm. It's that sort of brand loyalty aspect, which, we all have, but it's like, at the end of the day, I just want a decent episode of Doctor Who, because
you've seen how good Doctor Who can be, and you want it to
and obviously I think we're going to get that. I think we're gonna get that in like 2023 with the 60th and stuff.
You want to see the thing you love flourish.
Yeah, I wish I didn't have to wait until 2023 to be confident in Doctor Who being like decent. I wish I could go into the centenary being like, yes, it's gonna be sick, can't wait. But I just can't, and that sucks because I want to be able to say that, you know,
I'm gonna be very intoxicated.
But I think that's the thing. I think above anything else, I'm in a reflective mood because it's like, at the end of the day, I think it's the sort of thing I'll probably end up like enjoying in a very mindless way, like you said.
Yeah.
But I'm just I want more than that, and that's kind of what this era has been for me a lot of the time, where it's like,
well, yeah, it's been very surface level
for a bit.
Like
if you like
the
switch
good stuff
your brain
has been
off,
very
but then,
surface level.
and I think the thing that it's because it's lacked, and I think it comes back to the whole gaps thing. Not only is like we having like loads of gaps, but the actual content we're having is like very light in substance. So to me, it's like, you know, like how the 2009 specials, right? Yeah. It was very similar to what we have now, where it's like a couple of specials throughout the year, and it ends in like a big one and whatever, right? Like the difference there was Waters of Mars is more substantial in terms of thematically and character and, you know, all the stuff that I come to DV for. Mm-hmm. That to me, if I was there in 2009, I probably wouldn't be, you know, just desperate for something new to come out as much, because
well, yeah, I don't even think that, I don't even think that back then
you know what I mean?
Complaining. Like, they were like, just like, yeah, okay, like 4
because
specials.
The stuff we've been getting is so just because, like, Legend of the Sea Devils, let's face it, it's a filler episode.
Yeah,
in its purest form.
It was also well marketed. Like, we had trailers and stuff throughout. Like, we constantly had promotion as well. Did we not also have like the proms and stuff that year? Like, there was a lot of stuff like coming out about Doctor Who.
In its purest form, Legend of the Sea Devils is a filler episode. Like, it doesn't feel... Even, like, disregarding your opinion on that episode, because I do not like that episode, but just focusing on what it is. It's not a special...
Dead, to be fair.
No, but even then, they went to Dubai, and they had, like, you know, like a celebrity guest and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, Legend, you could literally plop it in Series 13, and it just wouldn't... Like, it wouldn't look any different. You know,
well, I think what I'm trying to say is... an original, like, it was just at least original draft.
Planet of the Dead was even, like, you know, it was feature length as well. I think it was, like, an hour long. So at least it had that, like, at least it felt a bit more like a special. Whereas with Legend, it's just a very, very... Just, you know what I mean? It's a very substanceless, very generic episode. And that's all we've had to sort of satisfy our, like... You know, Doctor Who needs, if you like, for the last, 5 months? And, you know, given that I've gone on record as saying that Legend of the Sea Devils was one of my least favourite, you know, episodes of the TV show, ever, that's not a great place to be in. And it makes it very difficult to try and generate hype for stuff. And, you know, it's like... I just want to go back to when Russell T Davies 2 60th stuff was filming and everything was exciting, but like, I feel like I'm just turning this into one long therapy session, but it's like,
yeah, stop.
I've just really been struggling.
I don't like it. I want to stop.
But there's good stuff coming, you know, even if the centenary turns out to be not great. I'm still excited for the future of Doctor Who. It's just the road to getting to the future of Doctor Who has been one that's very not ideal for me personally.
It's been very bumpy. Lots of like
because I think I pointed out to you, like, it's a couple of days from now it will be a year since it was announced that Russell T Davies
which is mad.
Was coming back as showrunner. That's mental. Like, that doesn't feel right. That feels wrong. It feels, I mean, on the one hand it feels like it shouldn't have been that long, on the other hand it feels like it should be like 5 years, because it just, you know what I mean, like, the gaps have just felt so long between things. Like Legend of the Sea Devils and the Centenary Special, Power of the Doctor, whatever, they feel like they're coming out in like completely different times in history. like, think about it from this perspective, in the time that, like, in the time between Legend of the Sea Devils and the Centenary, we've had, like, a new monarch, a new prime minister, like, continued, conflicts in Europe with Ukraine and stuff. We've had, like, cost of living.
Everything's fucking dreadful. That's what he's getting.
All this like, basically, someone pointed out on Twitter, like, a decades of worth of events have happened between those two episodes, and it does feel like that.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I think that's why I've been so desperate for, like, the marketing to kick in. Eventually now it has, but, like,
if anything,
it's
that's
been
a
so
lot of
long,
material for.
And I just wish it had kicked in a bit sooner.
For Series 14.
Oh well, that'll be like November, won't it? Like, probably.
Yeah.
I'm reckoning as soon as the Centenary's out, it'll be like, it's going to be pretty soon afterwards.
I meant like writing wise. There's a lot of material for Russell to use. Like what's going on.
Oh, I see what you. I thought you said Russell News. I got confused.
Oh, right, no.
There is a lot of material. I definitely can see. I mean, like, some of the years and years predictions are scarily, like, accurate. Because I've been rewatching a lot of clips for it recently. Like, a whole thing of, like, what you call it? The Ukraine conflict, that actually gets a name drop in years and years. Liz Truss basically just being Vivian Rook in that show. Like, almost verbatim, some of the same rhetoric. Like, what else? The Queen dying in 2022. Like, some of the predictions are scary. That man is scarily switched on, and I think we're going to get some of the most interesting, like, biting social commentary we've ever had on the show, which I personally think is really exciting.
Yeah, that's what's keeping me going with Doctor Who at the minute.
Yeah, honestly, I think I've said this to people, like, the fact that Russell is coming back is what's keeping me around. If it wasn't for that, I think I might have checked out. Like, at least for a bit.
Pete McTeague took over.
I've said before that would literally be my nightmare timeline.
But he's based.
But yeah, so that's my long rant about that. And yeah, the Centenary, I want it to be good. I really do. I just don't have high hopes.
Segue
into the next thing, which I guess what we got to talk about, the BFI. Let's talk about the BFI.
Let's talk about real life, baby.
We're not real. It's like when I was on Twitter the other day and someone called me a fictional character.
Oh yeah. I mean, that should be on that like Twitter account. It's like rare insults.
It's a lie. I don't exist.
Yeah.
But yeah, so BFI, me and John attended the Abominable Snowman BFI with some of our friends. For those of you perhaps aren't aware of what a BFI is, basically, occasionally at the British Film Institute in London, they will do screenings of mostly either the Doctor Who collection box sets, certain episodes of that, or the animated episodes, animated reconstructions of classic episodes. And we went to see the Abominable Snowman one in London,
which is the last one, at least for like
for a while time. In terms of the animations, and obviously before we even get into the BFI, can I just talk a little bit about the odyssey that I had to go through to get to the BFI?
Because you were telling me, and even before you like said all that, I was like, oh, I don't think this is going to work out well for you, but you know what, you do you.
Well, yeah, so for the first time, for those of you who don't know, sometimes it's a bit difficult for me to get places, as you probably are able to tell. And this was my first time doing a trip to London on my own. Up until this point, I'd normally get like a lift from like a parent or something like that in that car. But I was like, no, I want to do the train. I'm going to do it on my own. It's going to be epic. So booked the tickets, to the train station as well as. Well, I mean, there's a story about getting the BFI tickets, but we'll talk about that later. But so I get on the train from Cardiff Central to Paddington in the morning. Even then, actually, the train that I was gonna get on, like, it got delayed because I think one of the trains stopped working, so it got mildly delayed. Only by like 10 minutes, but it was kind of like a foreboding sign, of things to come on reflection. But I went on the train. I went on first class because, for those of you who don't know, in like normal trains, like it's a nightmare to navigate a wheelchair around those. So I was like, I'll go on the safe side, go first class, sound, and it was lovely. It was a lovely journey. Really enjoyed myself. Nice. Got to Paddington. It's packed, as you'd expect. London Paddington 2B. And then I said to the guy, I says, I'm trying to get to Waterloo, which is the closest station to where the British Film Institute is. And they said, there's not a lift down to that train. And I was like, oh, that's great. And that was the first sign of issues with the trip. So,
and the thing is, I'm sure you looked up like beforehand as well, like what stations did have wheelchair access, and that was one.
Well, yeah, because Paddington was like listed as like a wheelchair friendly one. So I was like, all right, sound. And I got there, they were like, no, it's just not a lift. I was like, all right. So what I had to do was what they basically put me on was a circle line, which went through all the different underground stations. So I went through from Paddington to, I think, Westminster.
Okay.
And then from Westminster to Waterloo. Oh. And I only just made it to the screening by the skin of my teeth.
Bang on time, because you were calling me, and I was like, the thing starts in like 3 minutes.
Luckily
there was like a little bit at the start.
The thing is, I was really early. Like, getting off the train, I was like, sound, if I can just get on the tube now, I'll have plenty of time. But then they were like, no, actually, there is no lift. And I was like, okay. But eventually, I made it. Had a decent time. We'll talk about the subway incident later on, I guess. But just to round off the travel, I left the BFI early, knowing full well. I say early. A lot of people had left by that point, but early compared to you guys, because you guys were staying there. And I was like, all right. I left like an hour and a half before my train left. From Waterloo, did the whole circle line thing back to Paddington, and then through. And even then, I only just made it to my train by like a few minutes.
Yeah.
Like, and I left like an hour and a half early. Like it was a nightmare. London's one of those things. Like, I think what I came to realize with it was it's great to look at from a distance. Trying to actually navigate the place is a nightmare.
It's fine once you get a hang of it, but I mean, it is just a dreadful place to live.
But like, it's just the fact that you've got to like, sort of plan like an hour and a half ahead, and even then you're only just gonna make it. Like that's just that's absurd. Like because if there was a lift, I'd be so much quicker. But yeah. So that was just getting there, but the event itself was good.
I mean, I also ran into
you go on, you tell
endeavour whilst getting there.
Nice.
And that was so I booked to stay over in London for 2 nights. The night before the actual event, and then obviously the night of the actual event itself. So I arrived in London. It was all good. I go to check into my hotel. And they're just like, nah, mate, you've not paid. I was like, I mean, I have paid. So I had this little back and forth with the woman behind the desk, and pretty much I was scammed from the booking site in which I booked my hotel through. Whereas, where they ended up taking my money, but not like transferring it over to the people. And the people there were
Did you do a Karen? Did you like go Karen?
I didn't even go Karen because I had all the receipts. I was like, well, no, actually, look, I have like my bank statement here. That's like, look, the money's come out of my account. It's like you have all my order details on your system, so you can tell that I really paid for something. And then
so they just refused, or
yeah, pretty much, because they were like, oh yeah, this is a thing with like that booking site. It's like sometimes they keep the money, but like but they should have passed it on. It's like, why don't you call them up? And then so I phoned them up and explained the situation to them, and the woman like straight up just hung up on me. Like I told her the story, she just hung up.
Oh wow.
I phoned another twice afterwards. It just rang out. I was like, great, I'm fucked here. And it wasn't even like one of them situations where I could have just stayed at a mate's house, which I've done previously, because I had my mate Ben. Like, he was staying with me. for a night. So I couldn't even like just go, okay, I'll bung off that and stay somewhere else. It's like I had to like just straight up pay again, otherwise we wouldn't have had somewhere to stay.
Yeah, it's lucky you had the money to do that again.
I didn't have the money. I did not have the money. So I was actually with Strange, which was
Michelle,
which
one of our friends for anyone who doesn't know.
Yeah,
which was full context.
Which was very lucky that I had them like just with me when I was checking in, because I would have been screwed otherwise. I only had like a couple £100 with me.
So the website basically, was it the website that fucked you over? Or was
it was the website, because the hotel, I could tell from behind the desk, like the woman was just doing her job, and she even spoke to her manager, and it's like, I was like, oh no, it's like pay at the property. So I was like, oh, but like money has come out of my account. And I had like 2 contradictory emails where it was like, one said pay at the property, but at the same time money had also left my account.
Wait,
I was
hello?
like, well, this doesn't make sense. But going by the fact they just
John,
straight up
I cannot hear you.
rubbered my calls and was just like, no, get fucked, you know? I've come to the conclusion that, yeah, I just got scammed. So that was good. That was fun. And then what made it worse, right, is when I obviously, repaid for everything. We then thought, hey, let's order Chinese. That'll be like a little, we've settled in now. Let's order some food. Obviously, in hotels, right, like a lot of them, you just don't have cutlery. You maybe have like a teaspoon and like a kettle and whatever. So yeah, we ordered our Chinese food. Luckily, it was nothing too like saucy or whatever. And then like, yeah, obviously that turned up. And we're like, fuck, how could we eat this? So we was then sitting in the hotel room that I paid for twice at this point, just like scooping rice into my mouth. It was a truly tragic moment.
Wait, with your hands?
Well, yeah, what else could I do? It was like, it was partly that, and also just putting the tub to my face and like just eating out like an animal. Because I'm like, I'm not going out and buying cutlery. I've just paid for this hotel, like, twice. I don't have the money right now.
Goddamn, we were just having a bit of a rough time.
To be fair, it did pick up later that night. Like, I met up with like a few of my mates, like Maddox. He's been on an episode.
He did. He was on the Telford Comic Con episode.
Yeah, and our mate David, and we just fucked around for like a few hours later that night. Like, we went to like St. Paul's.
I think the thing for me I've come to sort of realise is doing that as a round trip in one day whilst having to get like transport is like rough.
Oh yeah. That's always that's why I usually book the 2 nights, because it's like you need the night to like settle in, and then
Yeah, that's less of an option for me though, unfortunately. So what I might do, I might do it occasionally. I'll do it for because we're both going to the London Film Comic Con, but like that. Okay. I think we can spend more time there, and it won't be quite so like...
Yeah.
Because the thing is about the BFI, right? It's obviously, it was a 6-part story, so the story itself was quite long.
Mm-hmm.
So already I was kind of looking at the time going, I'm not going to have loads of time to do stuff.
Yeah.
And the thing about the BFI is, it's like every Doctor Who influency content creator or just fan that you can think of online in a room, in a bar, and it's very loud. And you basically can't hear anything. And obviously, like, you can, like, go and... like, the thing is, what was good about last time, because I did it for Galaxy 4, was they had, like, little food stalls out. Yeah. Which was great, because I went with, last time with JXE to go get some burgers. That wasn't an option this time. So, like, I couldn't really get food, and also, like, Mr. Tardis, he bought me a drink, he bought me a pint, because I went on his live stream, and, he says to me, oh, well, there's a quiz. You want to do the quiz? And I'd never done the quiz before. Yeah. So I was like, yeah, alright. But then I realised after that I had, like, no other time. So I think if I was to do the BFI again, I would basically... I probably wouldn't choose to go to a 6-part story, if only because it left me with little time already. And B, I probably wouldn't do the quiz because it was like... Yeah. It just... like, the time just went...
I think the best one I've been to was probably the City of Death one. I don't think you were there, but that's probably the best one I've been to in terms of like socializing, because it's
No, I wasn't.
It's like a 4-part story that everyone already kind of likes. Like, just the socializing bit after was just really chill as well. Like, it was not like they had the quiz and stuff, but there was still like enough time afterwards to like sit in like the quieter bar.
I enjoy the BFI.
I talk to people.
It's a lot to do for like. For me, at least, it's a lot to get sorted for what is essentially. Obviously, I enjoy the screening, and then it's just sort of like mulling around.
It's essentially for you. It's like you're traveling like all this way. It's such a hassle to essentially watch Doctor Who and then talk to some mates.
Yeah, it's just a bit of an effort. Like, at least with a con, like you're meeting multiple, like you're taking pictures, and it's like, you're talking. It's like you can talk to people more because it's a more open venue, so like you can hear yourselves. And like there's just more to do at cons, whereas like BFI obviously it's not a con, it's a professional screening thing, so it's not really designed to be.
That's the thing. It's a lot more. I think in terms of socializing, it's a lot more chilled out. In terms of when you're at a con, obviously you're running a bit everywhere. It's a bit more hectic, but also I guess in a fun way because you're all kind of there for the same thing, and I guess you are with the BFI, but. Yeah.
Like, I guess, I don't know, I like both, don't get me wrong, I enjoy going to the BFI, it's just, I think it's just...
I guess you have more, you have more purpose at a con, where it's like, at, like, the BFI, you're just kind of in London, there's a bar, you can maybe go out and get food.
And it's also the fact that, like, it's more designed for socialising, because you're not, like, obviously sat in a cinema watching a screening for... I think, like, almost 2 hours in the Abominable Snowman's case. Like... Oh, obviously I enjoyed it. It was a good story and everything, but like, obviously, like, I would do it again, and I probably will. It's just because I know there was another one for Time Meddler, and I kind of looked at it and I thought, it's just too soon for me to do it.
I can't justify doing it because I'm Comic-Con. I'm a little bit annoyed though, because like half the Universals are like, yeah, let's all go there. They literally said that the other day, and I was like, come on, guys, like. Why did you say it, like, last minute?
It's the fact as well, like, I think it's for us, because, like, obviously, I'm in Wales, you're in Scotland, obviously it's farther for you, but it's still a hassle for me in different ways. Like, we're not, it's not like with Strange, for example, who's one of our friends who literally lives in London. For them, it's just like, yeah, sure, I'll go. Like, for us, it's like, we've got, like, plans so far ahead. And, like, it never goes to plan when you plan these things. Which I think brings us on nicely. Do you want to talk about the subway incident?
Oh, yeah. So, obviously, you wanted... Well,
yeah, so for context, I hadn't eaten, like,
you
all
hadn't
day
eaten
properly.
Yeah. And there is places in the BFI to get foods, but they're a little bit pricey.
They're not only they're like it's like a proper restaurant. It's not cheap, and it was also just full.
Yeah.
And we were in there as well, so it was like there's no way I'm getting in there. So I was like, okay.
So I was like,
surely there'll be something about.
Yeah, I was like, oh, there's London. A KFC nearby.
And like, so we went. It was us, and like there's footage of it on, I think. Which channel is it? Universals?
Yeah, I think so.
One of yours?
Yeah.
Of like us all sort of wandering the streets of London. It was me, you, like David Maddox, a couple other people that we know, just wandering about, and we're like, okay, get KFC, like there was like road.
It felt like a sketch. Like it was like, how has this happened? So I couldn't work out what happened with KFC. We walked maybe like 5-7 minutes to KFC, and it was like there was this tunnel that was fenced off, and there was people doing roadworks, and I was like, okay, let's go around the corner. So we went to go around the corner, and there was still a fence. Right, But the place was open. That's what I couldn't work out. Like we approached KFC from the back. It was like there was no access point to get to the doors of KFC.
To get inside, so it was like how? It was like Pandora's box. We were looking at it, being like, how is this open? It shouldn't be this difficult to get to KFC.
Yeah. So then I was like. We then went to the subway because we were like, well, the last time we were there, we all got a subway. So I was like, there's a subway not too far away. So we walked up there. Just wasn't accessible for you. It was like the most narrowest shop I've ever seen. So, we decided to patch that off. We went to, was it Waterloo Station where the McDonald's was?
Yeah, and that was like full. I was like,
Yeah,
right,
that was
no way
just
I'm getting
packed.
there.
Like, you would have
That's
been
just...
waiting like half an hour to get like a burger.
By
And
the time
then,
that like, I was also worried about
yeah.
time as well. Because there's another aspect to this story as well. I was kind of... Because my original train was going to go at, like... I think... Was it, like, 6?
Maybe.
Or something? And I moved it to, like... Was it, like... I don't know, I think maybe it was, like... Yeah, I mean, I was, like, even at 5. I was like, that'll be plenty of time. I get there at 12. I shouldn't need to be there very long. The screening itself didn't end till gone 2. The quiz ended at like 4:30, and I was like, fuck, I'm not going to make it.
Yeah.
So I had to basically... Don't tell them I did this. But I got on the later train that was basically to the same place. But
Yeah, no, they
I
don't
just
care.
said that
They
I was
don't...
going to Cardiff, and like,
Yeah.
I'd still paid, right? So it wasn't like...
Yeah,
it wasn't like
exactly,
I
yeah.
hadn't paid. It was just that I technically was going to be on
If
the
you
earlier
have
one.
a ticket and
But,
it's
like,
the wrong train, yeah, I've done that before.
because the thing is,
No
as well,
care.
by the time I tried to get food, like, my train would have left. And, like, I just couldn't leave without food because I hadn't eaten, like, all day.
Yeah.
And, like, it was just like, this is just not fun. So,
Yeah. Yeah, so we just went back to the subway, and one of us was like, we'll just
well,
go
no,
in and buy
yeah,
you food.
like, we went, so someone had to go in for me and get it, and then I just sort of, like, ate it on the table at, like, one of the BFI stalls.
Yeah.
And it all, like, fell apart, and I was just, like, sort of picking out the bits of the sandwich.
I think in terms of, like, just meeting up and socialising afterwards, this has probably been my least favourite in terms of that. Because I think...
I mean, I've only
it was
done
just...
2, and I would say
It's well, yeah, but I think it was just, like... Well, the quiz one happened, and then after that, like, after we went to get food afterwards, it was just kind of... Everyone had already left.
Yeah.
And, like, usually, like, there's usually, like, a lot more, like, buzz in the air. There's, like... Usually, like, everyone has their little tables and stuff.
I think everyone... Like, the people I spoke to briefly, like, because I know Jay, they were heading back home.
Yeah, I barely got to speak to Jay. I barely got to speak to, like, Mr. Tardis, any of that. Like, I spoke to, like, Davis and Mr. Tardis a little bit, like, before we went in, but it was so brief.
I didn't get there in time for that.
Yeah.
It was like, I mean, I spoke to Mr. Tardis briefly because of the quiz of the Rassilon and stuff.
We just said, like, hi to him, that was about it.
I did terrible at the quiz of the Rassilon because it was mostly, like, classic Q questions. On my team, I probably should talk about that a little bit, because I just think it's one of those groups of people that, like, you wouldn't expect to see in, like, the same room. So it's like, for context, so Quiz of Rathlon is basically like, we're all on, it's like a pub quiz type thing, we're all on little tables, as teams, and, everyone had their own little team, and, like, there was, like, a TV at the front with, like, a microphone, and they were saying all the questions and stuff. And I remember, so my team was myself, Mr. Tardis, Adam Martin, which you might AMTV, Clever Dick Films, who does the documentaries, Jude at Pig and Tea Break on Twitter, some of you might know, Josh Carr from the Who Knew podcast. For some reason I blanked on the name.
Guess you didn't know.
What was that?
Guess you didn't know.
That was terrible. And yeah, like, it was just such a weird, eclectic group of people that you wouldn't expect in the same room. Obviously, like, the commonality being that we were all Doctor Who people, but that was, like, where the similarities kind of, like...
That is, like, the weird thing about this show, is how it can bring so many, like,
of, like, the community in one space. Like, I'll say this, Clever Dick Films... My guy's like a genius. He carried the team. He was like... And, like, when someone just radiates teacher energy?
Yeah.
He radiated that, like, authoritative
That's the thing,
teacher.
I was sitting in the seat, like, originally at the BFI. I think I was sitting, like, a row down from where I should have. So I was just sitting there, and then just him and, like, Josh Carr just walk up to me, and I'm like, oh, sorry, man, I think I'm in your seat.
Sorry. But it was funny, because in the end, we ended up sat together, so that was fine. That was nice. The story itself, I don't know whether I have a lot to say on it, personally.
I enjoyed it. That was my first time experiencing it. I had read a little bit about it, but yeah, I had fun with it. Same. I don't think it, like, you could tell it dragged a little bit, but I don't think it was, like, too long necessarily. Yeah. Like, there were some stories that
where I was a bit like, come on, this could be cut down a little bit. Like, there were some bits where I was like, this could be a visual, but, like, I do think that they slightly oversold it. Because obviously after the the screening, they'll have like a Q&A and stuff, and they were like, yeah, the original Abominable Snowman had like no padding, and I was like, didn't it? I feel like it did. So I just watched it. I feel like it did. I personally preferred Galaxy 4 when I went to see that. I felt that.
Oh,
I
really?
feel like the shorter. Yeah, I feel like the shorter one. I think maybe it's just the. No,
I
I
disagree with that. I think
the atmosphere. I think at least Galaxy 4 lent itself to a BFI more.
Maybe.
It was shorter. It was kind of less
I don't
dense.
think the Abominable Snowman is necessarily one that should just be shown like all 6 parts altogether. Like I know there was like a little break in between, but like
it was
I
a
feel
very
like,
short break. Though.
Yeah.
I think they should make the breaks longer. Like if they're gonna do like a break, have it be a break, not like 5 minutes and then it comes back on. Like have it be like a. I don't know, like what they do, like the football, where it's like 11 minutes or something. Like, just give people time to just.
I think it was about 11 minutes.
Was it? It didn't feel like that. It felt like maybe I'm just bad with time, but like, yeah, I enjoyed it personally. I think maybe it's like Abominable Snowman. I think we've got to bear in mind with Classic, and I think Josh Nares has like said this in one of his videos on Abominable Snowman. Like, these stories aren't meant to be viewed in, like, one go.
Yeah.
Like, they were never meant to be viewed as that. So when you do, it's kind of like...
I think I slightly agreed with what Review Death said in their review in terms of what they did with the Macro Terror, where it was like, they kind of cut out scenes just to make it flow that little bit better. And I think that's something that this story could have done with... Like obviously, obviously, you know.
At me for that, but personally, I think that should be an option.
Well, I think the Macro Terror is like one of the best like animations and like just stories generally that we've like got. I think those little like scenes, you know, it just helps the pacing that little bit more. It's like you can animate the full thing if you like, but I think there should just be a version of it that is just a
I
little
want
bit.
them to like animate all of it. Don't get me wrong, but like I think if they should be an option for like a Redux. I think they should just offer that on Classic Q DVDs in general, personally. Because I'm not going to say that I have too short of an attention span for like Classic Q.
Okay, Nuvian.
No, because there's Classic Q stories where I can watch them, like Genesis, for example. It's 6 parts. I have no issue with watching that all the way through. But there are some where I'm like, yeah, you can really tell that this has been dragged out, and the thing is, it's not like it was done as a deliberate choice. A lot of times it was done to fill space. And I love Classic Q. My problem with a lot of the Pertwee era. Like, I love Classic Q, but I think there is this weird... Like, some people seem to see it as this, like, impeccable, flawless thing that, like...
I mean, I don't think long bad. I think it depends, because, like, something like the War Games is one of my all-time favourites, and that's 10 parts long.
It's not my, like, criticism that just a long story is bad. I think it just depends on the story and like why it's been lengthened or like why it is the length that it is. If it's a length that it is because it needs to be that length. Like say for example, I haven't seen it all the way through, but like something like Dalek's Master Plan, right? I imagine that's an ambitious story that maybe requires maybe like all those parts, all the War Games, for example, maybe fine, so it's a finale story, whatever. When it's something like, Invasion of Time, for instance, like there's just so much of it that's just like, now we're going around corridors.
Yeah.
Woo! It's just that I'm like, there's just some things that don't need to be as long. But I don't think Abominable Snowman I enjoyed for the most part. I do think they could have cut out like maybe like 20 minutes, half an hour, and had like a little redux version, and I think it would have flowed.
I don't disagree with that. Yeah. Like, I really enjoyed it, but yeah, I don't disagree with that.
I did really enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like, it's just one of those things where it's like... I think it's more so, like, it's the middle parts of Classic Q stories that can be like that, where it's like... Because, like, I think Classic Q, like, it's really good at, like, opening, like, setting the scene is always really good in Classic Q, or, like, a lot of the time, I think. The setups are always really good, and I think, like, obviously, like, Classic Q's known for its cliffhangers, but sometimes the time in between those points can be a little bit like... you're sort of tapping your watch going, come on. Just beat it up a little bit. But no, I really enjoyed it overall. I thought it converted really well to animation. I'm not one of these people who knows like the original story off by heart.
It was one that I think lended itself to, because obviously the animations expand like a lot of it. Like, I mean, like production-wise. So, you can have the big snowy mountains and stuff like that wouldn't have been there in the original.
Yeah. No, I agree. I liked the bigger scale. Something they sort of spoke about was, which I found fascinating, was, what you call it, like, how they updated the monks to actually be, like, accurate to the time.
Yeah,
which I thought was
cool.
a really good move on their end. And I like how that wasn't even, like, a second thought to do that. Like, yeah, it really should be like that, and I'm glad they made that decision. And, it is one of those ones, I think it does lend itself well to animation, like you said, with the setting being quite large. Yeah. I like what they did with the, what's his name? Panda Sambabar. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Yeah,
probably not. But I liked what they did with the sort of. I know it's very different from his original design because I've seen some pictures.
I quite like the redesign. Like I know that's like
the
a
whole
controversial
sort of demented thing, and I think when he's like flying in the animation, spoilers by the way. But when he's flying in the animation, I think it really fits. It sort of reminded me of like Scooby-Doo in a good way. It had that sort of, like that sort of haunted, spooky, like ethereal sort of vibe about it. And I'm digging it. I thought the threat was really good. I thought the Yeti had done well in 2D animation as well. I was interested to see how they were going to do like the walking.
Yeah, man, that was maybe my only criticism is like the walking was a little bit, I don't know. It kind of did just feel like a PNG a lot of the time.
I don't know.
Like it was just it's just when you saw the original footage, like they were a lot faster and. They weren't going to ran at you, where I feel like within this animation they're more kind of crumbly and...
Something these animations do that's quite common is they'll make... Because I was watching like a Josh Nair's video on this. I don't know whether Josh Nair's watches the podcast, but if you do, you're probably not. I know that I think they've liked some of your stuff, so I thought maybe that they might. But anyway, if they do, Josh, you're like my basis for classic Who things, among other people like Climatic Films as well, in terms of how I discuss it and stuff. But what he was saying was something that they quite commonly do is they'll make the sets bigger in the animations to sort of better reflect what the scale would have actually looked like if they'd have had the money. And I think this was an example of that because there are some scenes that go on for quite a while without any music of them just sort of walking. For a solid few seconds.
The story has no soundtrack.
No, it doesn't have
that might have made it a bit harder.
Yeah,
for some viewers, considering the length. I think there's one sound bit of music that I wouldn't really class as music because it just kind of sounds like a squeaky wheel.
Which bit are you on about?
Just
it
just kind of does that.
You mean the little bull with the little balls when they go?
I don't even know. Well, that's the only instrumental piece that's in it.
Yeah.
I think that's regarded just.
I will say as well. Obviously, it's my first time watching the story. That did get annoying after a while. I don't know whether maybe it's just me, but the whole because it was the only sound as well. It was
yeah.
Maybe that's just me. It didn't bother me that much. But I was just kind of yep, that sure is that noise.
You're this would have been better if Murray Gold was there.
No, I'm not going to say that. I enjoyed the story. All right, it's just I'm not one of these people with most things. I think there's new Who stuff that not aged well. In the same way that I think some stuff from the '60s isn't going to age well. Mm-hmm. I think for the most part, it's a really good story. I think my main criticism would be there is definitely some padding in it. But also people say I think it could do with 20 minutes, half an hour, just to really tighten it. And I think with that, it would have been as it was, I enjoyed it. Because it's too Jamie and Victoria. I love that dynamic as it is. And one of my favourite bits is when Jamie's no, I don't need the cold. The Himalayas is just bigger version of what I've got in Scotland. And he gets it. He goes there and yeah, I'm cold.
That's also a good story for Victoria as well, because a lot of people just sort of put her down as just a screaming damsel in distress. But you've got scenes when she tricks the monks and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, she's they play on her innate curiosity a lot in that story. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, well, what is Patton sound about? It's like, no, you can't see. It's like, well, I want to know what he looks like. No. And then she finds out anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good story. It's just one of those ones that's like, because like Galaxy 4, I felt like it was paced pretty well. Maybe I'm just more of a fan of like.
I know. I feel like that. I honestly like. For me, I think Galaxy 4 had more padding in it. I know it was a shorter story, but
maybe
I think it also
maybe
didn't. I also
like
think that story didn't
story.
lend itself to the animation style where they expanded it so much, like the landscapes and stuff.
Know. I felt that the sort of the planet looked really nice in that, and I thought it kind of worked.
I just thought, yeah, but the problem with it to me is it just looked, because obviously compared to this, like you've got mountains, you've got hills, you've got stuff like with that. It's just kind of like a flat desert landscape. It's not really. It's not interesting.
The landscape is more tangible in Abominable Snowman in terms of like, cause it is Earth. It's a lot easier to like, I guess, model after something that actually exists. Whereas like Galaxy 4 is basically just entirely created.
I guess, but they're still basing it off of like studio stuff. It's just like a desert at the end of the day.
Yeah, but like what I'm trying to say is the studio and like what they like the studio and what the animation portrays, they look very different. Like in Galaxy 4's case.
I'm also not particularly a fan of the redesign of the ship in Galaxy 4, where it was like a circus.
Yeah, I do agree with that. Yeah.
But hey,
yeah, no, I do agree.
I'm glad they exist though. Like, I'm glad that we actually can view these stories.
Yeah, and like, look, I quite enjoy them. It's just the sort of thing where it's like, sometimes I think they can sort of highlight some of the pacing issues that some classic stories have. But yeah, I think that's about. Is that all we wanted to say? I think it was a good podcast.
Yeah, I think we I don't know. Did anything else go down? Like just
centenary, BFI. Shoot, his Instagram got brought back. Never really brought that back up, but it did. It happened.
We've got a
new director.
Yeah. We finally like know who the third director is.
Yeah, it's what's his name?
Oh, I can't remember his name. That's really.
I can't remember his name now.
But he hinted at the return of Matt Smith on his Instagram. You know, that's
like he took the piss, but it's like I hope that that's not all it is. I hope that there is some legitimacy to that. But part of me is just, coming to accept it's probably just gonna be.
My man's just trolling.
Oh, there's also the documentary about the TV movie. That's
yeah.
Fun.
When's that coming out? Because
there we are.
That's coming out soonish, Tom Kingsley, right? Oh yeah, that was it. Yeah, Tom Kingsley.
Yeah,
I'm excited to see what he does. Yeah, because he's the director on
Ghosts and stuff. Yeah. So which is apparently good. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, there's a couple of exciting things going on. I think the bottom line is Centenary. I want to be excited, but I'm worried about it. BFI, enjoyed it for the most part, but it was a bit chaotic. And yeah, it's been good to do the podcast again, and I'm hoping we can do more like it.
We'll see you in 3 days' time with a new episode.
Yeah, definitely. No,
I was going to say, what you're agreeing to that.
Being honest, I'm going on the 23rd, so probably maybe we'll
see you in a fortnight or something.
Yeah, maybe early October, late September, after I've gone to that. But we are going to get back onto it. Let's go. Wild Endeavour boys, out. Goodbye.